When you see a GR logo, you know we're going to talk about Toyota, and you know we're going to talk about a cool car. My name is Peter, welcome to AutoGoFuel, welcome to a new video, and that cool car is right behind me. It is the Toyota Corolla Cross GR Sport Edition. And of course we have already reviewed the Corolla Cross in a sort of normal spec in a very modest beige color. But of course here in this optional red color, it is GR all the way, all day. So it is cooler, better looking, and just a little bit nicer and more expensive as well. Now we're not going to do the whole review again. We're going to do a deep dive in a few specific features, and of course we're going to look at what is different in the GR Sport Edition. Talk about prices, talk about features, and talk about if this is the one you maybe should get. Now we're going to start here in the front, where we maybe have the most visual changes of this GR Sport Edition. We're going to start from top to bottom. So up here we have a matte black Toyota logo that is unique for the GR Sport. We also don't have the light bar here for the daytime running lights. The normal version has a light bar there. This one doesn't. And if we go a bit further down, we have that big black grille intake for engine cooling and air, with some fake air vents on each end. Not really sure about those. I don't really like the fake air vents. Could they really not have done anything better? But you know, it's there. We of course have the GR Sport badge over there, and this sort of, is it a splitter? Let's call it a splitter, why not? Over the whole width of the car, giving it a nice and aggressive look. And I think it's nice. It's done in a way that it's not too shouty and not too crazy, but it looks much more aggressive and sort of chunky from the front compared to the normal car. I think it's quite nice. And especially in this red, I think they've done a really good job, because the red and black two-tone color combination all around the car gives a very nice sort of overall finish. Now continuing here down the side, we got these 19-inch black wheels. Very nice as well. And what I normally don't like too much, but here it's not too bad, those extra sort of accents around the wheel arches and down the side. I think it makes the whole car sort of come together quite nicely with this red again. I think it's quite a striking car like this. Now something that we'll get back to in a minute is that this is all visual, of course, because in the end this is still a Toyota Corolla Cross, so it's a very nice sort of civilized all-round family car. Going further down the side, we have the fuel filler cap, because this is a hybrid, of course. We have the Corolla Cross badge over there, and back here on the rear of the car we again have this matte black Toyota logo. We have the Corolla Cross badge once more, GR Sport badge down here, and if we go all the way down, you can see this sort of extra shiny black accent down there. And again, I think this is well done and well judged by Toyota, that this GR Sport Edition looks the part, and in a way that it doesn't come across too leery or too shouty. So I think that's well judged and well done. Then pricing, that's where it gets interesting. Within the Corolla brand, you have quite a few options to pick already, and then there's more options within this specific model. So bear with me. So here in the Netherlands, the Corolla lineup kicks off with the normal hatchback for €33,500. You can then upgrade to the Touring Sport, so the nice station wagon that we've also reviewed a while ago, for €35,500. And this Corolla Cross starts at €40,000 here in the Netherlands. Now for that money, you start with the Corolla Cross Active, bottom of the range, 140 horsepower in the hybrid 140, two-wheel drive, all the basics covered. Then you can move up to the Corolla Cross Dynamic for €42,795. You still get that hybrid 140. You can then move to the Cross GR Sport, this one, that starts at €48,000, but for that you get the hybrid 180 as standard, 180 horsepower. And it's up from there, because for example, if you add this paint color, it is already €49,000. Above this one in starting price is the Corolla Cross Executive. That starts at €49,000 as well, and on that one you also get the hybrid 180 as standard. So there's quite a lot to pick within the brand name, and then a few more options to pick within the model itself. The big question is, of course, if it is worth it. €10,000 price difference between this one and the base one. It's hard to justify that much price difference. I think the 180 horsepower version of the hybrid system is definitely worth the upgrade over the 140. In all honesty, I haven't driven the 140, but driving this car for a week now and also having driven the standard or the normal version also with the 180, it is a nice powertrain. That extra horsepower I think really translates into a lot more pleasure in driving and a lot more sort of capabilities on the road that you can actually feel, because from 140 to 180 is quite the jump, even though technically it's only 40 horsepower. Now, if you're shopping in the 180 anyway, the starting price gets quite a lot higher. And I think that this GR Sport version, it's going to make you smile every time you walk up to your car that you picked the right one. It just looks so much nicer. The interior trim is nicer. You get all the goodies as standard. It's just a very complete vehicle. And I think if you're in the market for this kind of vehicle, you know, a lot of them can be accused of being a bit boring. I said the same thing with the regular Corolla Cross that we reviewed. There's nothing going wrong, and it doesn't excel in anything, but that is its strong suit, that it does everything well. And that can be a little bit boring. So why not go for this one in this awesome color with all the goodies in it and just be happy about your choices every day. 10,000 euros, obviously, compared to the base model is a smack of money, but I think in this version, it's so complete and it's so nice, and it's just a joy to use every single day. Here on the inside, it is the same treatment as on the outside with the GR Sport Pack. It is all cosmetic. There's nothing fundamentally different, apart maybe from the seats. These are a bit more buckety than the regular seats, and they have this sort of microfiber inlay and sort of leathery outside of the seats. They're quite massive from the rear, but they look really nice and they're quite comfortable as well. They might look like one solid piece, but they're not. The headrest can still go up like this. So it is sort of integrated, but it's not one piece. Apart from the seats, we have a different steering wheel. It is the GR steering wheel with a nice badge and of course that red stitching. And we can find that stitching throughout the cabin here on the gear stift, for example, here on the middle console and also on the seats as well. And that is really it. You get some floor mats and a little thingy in the door, a little plaque with the GR badge, and that's it. That's all the changes you get here on the inside. The same treatment for the back actually, for the seats, so that's nice too. But other than that, the whole cabin is basically the same. That means we get buttons, buttons and more buttons. Nothing here is touchy swipey except for the screen itself. And also the amount of piano black is kept to a bare minimum, only here around the ventilation a bit and on the center console around the gear shift. So that's great. I really like the philosophy that Toyota stays with tactile real buttons. Nothing really in the screen as far as operations goes. There's a few things you can do on the driver's display, like turn off your lane keeping assist and your speed warning and so on. But there's not much you're doing with the screen other than things like radio, navigation and so on. So that's nice. You could argue that maybe that is slightly old-fashioned, because especially with all the Chinese brands we've seen the past few years where everything is in the screen and you can clean the whole cabin up, the very minimalistic approach. There's definitely an argument to be made that that is the way forward, but I have to say I quite like it that Toyota sticks to buttons, doesn't go the capacitive route and just keeps everything nice and simple that way. There's a few unexpected things. For example, the steering wheel heating is down here on the left next to the fog lights, so not really the place where you would expect it maybe. And also things like the seat heating, for example, there's an actual switch here in the middle. So with those things you can put some question marks maybe that it would have been handier in the screen, but on the other hand it's nice, you can always find this and it's a one touch, one operation thing without any swiping or going through menus. So, you know, I think it is admirable that Toyota sticks with this approach and it clearly works. All around, it's a nice cabin. The seats are very pleasant to sit in over the standard seats, although those were not exactly uncomfortable, but it is nice to have this sort of little bit extra special hardware here. And like I said, it's the same as outside. It's all cosmetic, but it does bring the whole car together. And it's just nice that it's, you know, it gives you that little bit extra, because, you know, you pay extra money for it and it just makes you feel a little bit more special in here. Now it's time to do a little bit of driving, but before we go, I wanted to show you how you interact with the main screen and the driver's display in order to get ready to start driving. So I got the small camera here to show you what I'm doing so you can actually watch along. Now, as you can see, we got the big screen here with navigation on it, and here on the left we have some icons for music. You can select your source, phone if that's connected. We have very limited apps in a web browser and notifications, and we have some settings here for personal data, connecting sounds and so on. So that's good. And of course we have the car menu with a few things. It's in Dutch, but it says current drive, so that's your how much you're using, how much kilometers there's left in the tank, how long you've been driving and so on. So that's your driving overview. If we go one back, we have the energy flow, where you can see now that the battery is almost fully charged. This is the engine, and once you start driving, this starts turning all kinds of colors, showing you where the energy is going, be that to the wheels or back into the battery. Not something you'll watch constantly, but interesting to see every now and then. And then there's some personalization options for the klima, for the lights staying on and so on. So pretty basic stuff. But what you might be missing is some settings specifically for the car when you start driving, like your lane departure systems, like your speed warning systems and so on. Those things you would expect there, but they're not. They are actually in the driver's display. I want to turn my lane departure off and my speed warnings as well every time I drive, and legally those get turned back on every time you stop the car, so fine. But I'll show you how it looks like to turn those things off. So here is the main display. You can see my power meter on the left and my speedometer on the right. And in the middle, we are currently in Instellingen, which is settings in Dutch. So select those and you get a whole list of 3-letter acronyms for all your systems: LDA, BSM, PCS, PDA, and so on. Which is a bit of a faff, to be honest. The icons are too small. There's a little pictogram next to the abbreviation, as you can see. But if you're not too much into cars, it can be a bit confusing what it all means. And those pictograms are not always very self-explanatory either. So that's the first thing. And then obviously you have to imagine that I'm doing this while I'm departing my parking garage, for example. If I want to turn off my lane departure system, which I know is LDA, I have to long press here. Then I go into the LDA menu. Then I can put some LDA settings in terms of how I want the feedback in the steering wheel or with an audio warning. What that timing should look like, and there's an on-off button here. So let's turn that off. You can see the icon on the right, the orange one, turning glowing up, that my lane departure assistance is now off. Then I got to go back one, and then I got to start scrolling this list with BSM, PCS, PDA, RCTA, PKSB, SEA, and here finally RSA, Road Sign Assistant. I know that's the one with the speed warning, so I want to turn that one off as well. And then I got to go back to my main screen. Now you can imagine this is all a bit fiddly, especially because you're trying to watch the road and you're trying to do this while you're sort of leaving your residential area probably. There's better ways to do it. And I have to admit, it's nice to be able to do this with the little joystick on the steering wheel, but it would be much easier if I can just go to the big screen, touch some kind of shortcut button and be in my assistant menu right away. And interestingly, we drove the Lexus LBX a few videos ago, and that had the systems in the screen available under a shortcut button. So it's interesting that Toyota doesn't do sort of a one major overhaul and all models have it in the screen, because the screen is certainly capable. I mean, it's a software button, right? So you can put it anywhere really. So this is the solution they've gone for, but it is a bit fiddly and a bit, it can be optimized, I think. Now, after all the fiddly bits to turn off my driving aid systems, you find us on the highway at the moment, cruising in this Corolla Cross GR Sport Edition. Now, we have the 180 horsepower hybrid powertrain, which is a lovely powertrain. There's plenty of power for normal day-to-day driving, both in the city and here on the highway. At no point are you going to be the fastest vehicle around, but also at no point will you be embarrassed because you are lacking. So I think that's a good combination. 180 horsepower is very pleasant to drive in this shape car, and the powertrain is lovely too. It's especially lovely because it's a powertrain that takes care of all the work for you. So you can drive this without changing your driving style if you come from an ICE car, and you still get excellent fuel economy because the car just takes care of everything from deployment of the power to saving fuel when possible and everything in between. And that's great. It's a real carefree way of driving. And I can appreciate that. And I can totally imagine that if you are unable to buy an electric car or just not ready for an electric car, that this is such a strong alternative, because you don't have to bother with plugging it in or charging or range anxiety or anything. You just fill it up at the petrol station like you're used to and be on your way. So that's quite nice. And then the delivery of the power and the switching between the electric mode, it's so smooth. Toyota obviously has been building these kind of engines for 200 years, and it's just pleasant to drive with, and it's very refined and all around just a good driving experience. So that's nice. Downside in this GR Sport Edition though is that it is still the same powertrain and they haven't really done anything with it. which I think is a missed opportunity. And it's not like this car needs 400 horsepower or anything, but a little bit extra because it's the GR Sport Edition would have been nice. You know, maybe 20, 30 horsepower, just push it over that 200 something limit would have been nice. Sitting here on the highway, I can say the same things as I said in the regular Corolla Cross review. It's a very pleasant cruising vehicle without it being overly quiet or anything in here. You can definitely hear quite a bit of wind noise and tire noise coming from around the vehicle, especially from the rear actually. Not to the point where it's disturbing, but it is noticeable. And fundamentally, it's such a nice vehicle and such a nice package to move around in. Do anything from, you know, longer distance driving with your family in the back and a small weekend away in the boot. My kids have all kinds of sporting events in the weekends, so, you know, throw a few friends in the back and some sports bags in there, all is well. And it's such a nice all-round car that is easy to recommend to anybody from my parents to people my age that have to drive their kids around. It's a very complete package as far as that goes. And I think in this GR Sport Edition you have a really cool alternative in terms of styling, despite the fact that it does cost 10,000 euro extra over the standard version. But then again, if you take into account that you do get the bigger engine and more horsepower and more toys on the inside, you know, you can argue that it might be worth the money. Let me know in the comments if you guys feel that this GR Sport Edition offers enough to justify that extra price tag, or if you would rather go for a normal looking version, or potentially even the 140 version with less toys to save even more money. Keen to hear. That's all I got for you in this video. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you like it. Give it a thumbs up if that's the case. A sub to the channel is always appreciated as well, of course. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.